Hello, it's me. So, this looks like it's all set up and it's going all right. Right, so, can you guess what I'm doing? I did a bit of an unboxing, a bit of an update video. I'm filming this straight after filming that, but this, I think this is going up much, several days after. So, yeah. So what I'm doing is there is one of the first armies I got getting back into wargaming roughly about a decade ago was with Pike and Shotte, and I was trying to write a few stories at the time, and it was sort of like I thought, well, having a wargaming army is going to help with visualising everything. And that sort of got me back into wargaming quite a lot. And I found some of the stuff. I found the rule book and the English Civil War supplement book that they did. And, well, quite recently, I managed to start replacing a lot of stuff. And more recently, I've managed to start actually developing an actual sort of, an actual English Civil War army. So what I'm going to do is, right, I'll show you this bag first. Pikeman, Advanced Pike, Soft Hat. So these don't, the bottom's split, so it's a bit difficult, but I managed to get a couple of the minis out. As you might be able to guess, these are all from Old Glory. There's an American site and there's an English site. The 25mm scale, but they've got this old sort of So I don't know. There's sort of like it's a bit like I know the Hinchcliffe. These guys are still in production. I know there's the Hinchcliffes as well, and I've been sorely tempted by them. I know there's Von Ketteringham. He's managed to get a big force of Hinchcliffes, and but yeah, Old Glory's still about. They're a bit small. They've got numerous historical rangers. So the only real trouble is that they're a bit small, because these are 25mm. But it's sort of, in English money, it's a pack of 30 for £35, and the metal. That's general infantry, anyway. So let's have a look in here. So I'm basing this off some, I believe it's someone's PhD dissertation. It's available as a PDF from, it was Nottingham Trent University, I think. Anyway, and this is, I'm not going to show off that bit of paper. That's the invoice, and I should really have taken that out. But I'm not necessarily going to open these up properly. Well, these are the Pike buff coat advanced. These got the buff coats and stuff. I know a selection of things about the Civil War, and I'm basing this army off numbers given in that dissertation. It's going to be basically an approximate recreation of the first army of Sir Henry Hastings. At the time, he was quite young. He was a bit of a introvert. He was sorting his estate out, but the Civil War started, and there was this whole kerfuffle with packs of 30. So I've just shown you 60 different pikemen, 30 musketeers advancing with Montero caps, and then there's the other pikemen, buff coats, port pikes, soft hats. Henry Hastings, he'd gone to he led some of the royalist regiments around my area, and he held several positions along the Trent, about where I sort of grew up, because he'd held several outposts along the River Trent. And those were roughly where I used to grow up. I used to go on like walks on a Sunday there and stuff as a kid and all that sort of stuff. And with this, I should really do this in order. I'll put them back in order, check through the thing. Musketeers advancing with soft hats. You just about see some of them. And then musketeers firing with soft hats. And and there's 30 in a pack, so there's 140. Half of them in big fancy soft hats, the other half in Monteros. Yeah, this is the other Monteros, firing with Monteros. Yeah, and it's but yeah, he was a bit naive with the whole politics and stuff, but he didn't seem to be quite as much of a complete arsehole as John Gell, who led the parliamentarian forces around here. If John Gell went to a modern psychotherapist, I think they would diagnose him with sociopathy or psychopathy. He sounds like he was basically a very successful 80s yuppie in a curly wig. He'd go about basically sort of climbing the greasy pole of ambition at the expense of others, taking credit for anything that happened good around him, none of which he did himself. So, not all psychopaths have to be vicious serial killers or murderers. So, but yeah, I've tried to keep, but yeah, there's been this whole kerfuffle. Henry Hastings had gone to Leicester to try and pick up a commission to raise a regiment, but there'd been this whole kerfuffle with picking up whether he'd got one commission, but then the commissioning officers at Leicester were arrested by the parliamentarians for being traitors. So the commission was made null and void. So he couldn't get back to Leicester to get an official commission in time, so raised his own army. And this is sort of one based on that. But it was only run sort of illegal for the sake of the parliamentarians, and he was a royalist. But yeah, this is sort of a recreation of that first army of his, because it's mostly I can only find the numbers for that army. Although I've got 90, he in Henry Hastings had 80 pikemen, 120 musketeers, and 100 cavalry. Now, I've taken a couple of liberties because for the sake of wargaming, like getting a couple of falconets and a couple of culverins, and somewhere around here is, I think it's this back, just for mainly diorama type stuff. Limbers and civilian crew. So you got a couple of horses and drivers and stuff. So that's mainly for the sake of that. But right, I'll do what I've got in here. Who are? Yeah, I need to do the pikes separately, and I need another couple of bags of pikes. It's just so I've got spare ones. You know, accidents happened and all that. I want some spare, and then some get left over for other projects. There we go. Right, that's the toppings for them. And with this, dismounted dragoons. Now, Henry Hastings, after his army was disbanded, don't really know what's happened with a lot of his forces, because he managed to somehow get another command a force at Edge Hill. Yeah, and then afterwards, because of his efforts during that, he was given command of a regiment of dragoons. Although that first army didn't have any dragoons in, some of that 100 cavalry I'm taking on as dragoons, and these are the dismounted models. They're not spare musketeers, you know, fire. Was it commanded shot units or something, if need be, or you know, storming parties. Now, also I'll do these first. What's this? Unarmoured command. Some of the pikes I've got can be, well, these are going to be, you know, the commanders of pike blocks, drummers, etc., standard bearers. Yeah, so I get to do. I know there's the some of the regimental banners that you can buy pre-made, but I know I'm not necessarily the best painter, but as a bit of an exercise, I would like to try and do my own unit banners. I could only find one example of some of Hastings' banners, so yeah. I'll probably buy that and then do a copy of it just so I can get the size properly. But yeah, got the unarmoured command, so unit commanders. And then here I have mounted generals. And in there I'll choose a suit of, there's 30 unarmoured command. So we should have plenty of unit commanders, even if I divvy some up for, you know, commanded shot, etc., etc. I've got the mounted generals. So I've found some portraits of he himself, and I'll do that. Well, yeah, Henry Hastings was an interesting character. From Ashby Castle, he led the flying army. So it's like, I know he'd been at the Battle of Newark. He'd been defending at the Siege of Tutbury. John Joel did his usual business and did his own personal terms of surrender instead of agreed upon parliamentary committee surrender terms, because, well, he was a bit of a bastard and he shouldn't have done that. He should not have done that. He should not have done that. Ooh-ah. Now, and then one thing that's they've done is I'm going to do a couple of dioramas. Quite like this guy, you can sort of see here holding his hat down, but you get some extra bits like, oh, come on. There we go. Right. A few extra bits of gubbinry. I'm going to use them to do vignettes and things, and probably do an orders table or whatever. But one thing you might notice with this, and it gives me an excuse to do another unboxing. What's better than one unboxing? It's a second unboxing. But much of the cavalry will be reinforcements. They are going to come before Christmas. The store's having to restock a lot of their stuff. So, yeah, all of my dragoons and all of my cavalry will be coming then. The actual mounted up stuff. So, yeah. But I at least know what pattern. I know that this regiment had. Well, actually, I think it was one of his second coats. But yeah, they had a sort of a bluish coat. sort of a greyish blue, sort of like that sort of almost like actually similar to the. I'm using the towel as a sort of a cloth sort of thing. It's sort of a similar blue to that sort of thing. It's a sort of yeah, that sort of colour. I know John Jelly'd got a load of uniforms from Hull. He'd got about 100 men from Hull, and they were all from one of the London arsenals, and they'd managed to get that sort of lightish to mid-grey uniform. So I might. So what I might eventually do is I might do a mostly infantry force based on John Jell, even though he was a bit of a rotter. But I did have a bit of a fascination for the sieges of Lichfield. The first one of which, John Jell got appointed. I'm sure it was. It was the first. I'm forgetting because there was the first siege, second siege, and third siege. The second siege, there was only a couple of days, or about 2 or 3 days between the first and second siege, and it's having petards tunnel underneath and blown up segments of wall, and there was Dum Diot, who was basically a sniper hanging around on the roof of Lichfield Cathedral shooting people, and he managed to shoot. He was Lord Brock. He was the original commander of the Midland forces. He got shot by Dum Diot. That deaf, dumb, and blind kid sure could play a mean pin. Could sure shoot a mean musket ball. So now I want to hear a folk version of Pinball Wizard. But yeah. So yeah, there's some sort of very interesting bits of history around that, and it's because there's Hopton Heath. I know the city I grew up in. They've got the body of the Earl of Northampton, and he died at Hopton Heath because he rode ahead of his cavalry, decided to ride straight into a pike block. The horse died, got killed in the charge, and the sergeant at arms basically said, "Do you surrender? Do you surrender with full terms and conditions? Be treated as a gentleman and ransomed off?" And the Earl of the Earl of Northampton, basically, the gist of it was, I think that I'm not surrendering to you peasants. So they smacked him in the head with a halberd. So so he died. There's the whole thing with him being the parliamentary Hopton Heath. No one exactly won because we killed parliamentary forces killed the royalist commander and took his body, but the royalists took the parliamentary cannons. John Jell wanted to make an exchange. He gives their commander's body back in exchange for the cannons that were lost. The royalists said no. They'd much prefer the cannons. So John Jell tried to get recompense for a funeral. His parade in the head round Derby is sort of a bit of a show, sort of, support parliamentarians, we're winning, lads, sort of thing. Bit of a parade, got buried at the cathedral, and he tried to get reimbursed for the Lord Northampton's funeral and that bit of a parade. They refused. So, yeah. But anyway, that's the nub of some of the plans for the force. I'm blathering about bits of history. I've got a couple of small projects I want to finish off beforehand, And then I think I'm going to be investing quite a bit of time into these guys and their lovely muted blue coats and yellow and red flags. Hopefully you've sort of seen these are the camp following again. I'm well, obviously I like them. That's what I bought these. You know, it's me. But there's something quite. Other manufacturers of English Civil War models are out there. I know there's Warlord Games do a load of plastics. I much prefer working in metals. I sort of wanted to get. There's something about I don't know. There's something about a metal army and something about like where the molds are still being used 40 years later, at least probably 50 years later. Like, for example, I'm not necessarily sure about these designs in particular, but I'm sort of partly thinking about how Hinchcliffe models were recommended to me as well. And there's something quite, they're not necessarily, I don't know, because it's there's bloody miniatures. They do sort of warband skirmish sized packs, sort of small army sort of thing. They're very popular. They're quite new. They normally do they normally do I know they did some very early 1600s gunpowder plot era stuff, but they're pretty good. They're going to be very very on point, very nicely made models. But I don't know. There's still some. Oh yeah, I like these. I'm sorry about rocking the camera then. It's yeah, I like these as well. It's sort of yeah. Packing them all away again. Well, yeah. I don't know. There's something about. There's some strangely reassuring feeling about getting some of the older models. And I suppose it's still why old hammer's still a thing. It's partly it's nostalgia, but even though there are some very nice models around and about being sculpted and cast with modern techniques, the technology to do so is advanced, of course, but it's sort of horses for courses. I might invest in some bloody miniatures to do sort of like small scale skirmish battles and stuff. But there was a Redoubt miniatures as well. I think people have recommended Redoubt as well. But I think the only company that does plastics is Warlord Miniatures directly for their Pike and Shotte. And I have the rules for that, and I should have probably got and the supplement. I've had those for most of a decade, and it's just trying to get round to remembering how to play. But I also recently managed to get Never Mind the Bill Hooks, Here's the Ruckus. Those are mainly for, of course, 100 Years' War, but at the same time I managed to get Never Mind the Matchlocks, which is an adaptation of their rules system, specifically for the English Civil War. Yeah, because matchlocks and stuff. But yeah, as I paint these guys up, I'll probably do more videos on the history and stuff. But yeah, and ramble away. But I think I'm going to enjoy doing these, and yeah. And I'm sure there are other companies available that I've forgotten to mention beyond Redoubt, Warlord, and Bloody. I'm thinking about doing a division and using Hinchcliffe stuff at least. But first I've got to paint these guys up. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to sign off for now. And then I'm going to ramble away at a later point. As I complete these. I keep meaning to try and sort out doing a live stream. Work out how to organise myself doing a live stream, because it would be nice to do sort of paint along with stuff. I know there's a couple of folks that might be able to ask if they wanted to do some joint collaborative thing and, share a live stream on both mine and their channel and stuff. And I keep meaning to do something along the lines of that. There's someone in America, they live in America, timing's going to be a bit weird, but I know they've got some of the larger 40mm Hinchcliffes, some of which are about this sort of size. They managed to get some, I think there'd been some sort of garage clearance or loft house clearance type of affair, and they'd got a big box filled with stuff. And I went, hey, that's a Hinchcliffe. Ooh, ooh. They still do some of their stuff, and it's like, with Hinchcliffe, some of their fantasy range is now done through Broadsword Miniatures. A lot of their historicals are now through Lancashire Games. I think that's it. Try Googling it, but these guys are still about. There's the English site and there's the American site. So type in Old Glory UK or Old Glory USA and see what happens. I'll probably do another unboxing. After a little bit straightened out, I'll probably do another unboxing when the cavalry reinforce my army. But I'll just leaves me to say, stay safe, stay groovy.